common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. Election day, hours away. Get out and vote, everybody. And joining us now is the great political consultant and pollster, Mark Penn. Worked for so many different Democrats. Mark, I can't wait to hear your thoughts. These numbers, I was just looking at one poll just now. It was 48.4 for Trump, 48.3 for Harris. I mean, what are you expecting and what are you seeing? What trends are you seeing?
Well, I think every pollster is completely covered because every result, that's in 2 or 3 points is within the margin of error. So, polls that show 0.2 or whatever, they're just completely meaningless. We can't really tell things closer. The trend is that this is a very close race, that Trump has a strong working class backbone, and Harris has a strong, vote in the black community and a strong vote with college educated, and there's a big gender gap between the two. How big a gender gap is one of the things that we're going to learn, on Election Day. And I say the only thing that we know for absolutely positively sure is that the Trump campaign has done a much better job on the mail-in vote than they did in the past. We know that. That's a fact.
Also, the early voting, too. We've seen, what are you seeing, Mark, in terms of new voters? Because I'm curious, we just talked about, and obviously the number's bigger, but it came out a couple hours ago, 77 million so far have done early voting. And obviously it varies from state to state, but in some places they have been new voters, which will be interesting because that obviously bodes well for Election Day.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting. I think that Trump has targeted, an occasional voter. Men in the last few years have actually been largely outvoted by women, both of which because there are more women. But even beyond the numbers, women have taken a greater interest in politics and vote in greater numbers. So one of the interesting things will be to see if a lot of those male downscale voters are first-time voters who are drawn in by the Trump campaign, or are they young, college-educated students who also, didn't really care much about politics and have come in for Harris. So again, we're not going to know until the curtain's lifted on that. But those are the two, I think, campaigns and how they've targeted new voters.
What are you seeing? You brought up also men and women. There's the gender gap. Do they sort of wash each other out in a way? Because I was seeing in one poll it's like 16 points for women for Harris, and in Trump it's 16 points for guys for Trump.
Well, yes, but because there are definitely more women, Trump has to do better with men than she does with women.
Yep.
And a lot of the minority voters are women. A lot of those guys don't vote. If you really think about America is 330 million people, more or less, 250 million who are eligible to vote, and about last time 158 million, expected to vote, still leaving around 90 million people who are eligible to vote and won't be voted. Most of them are kind of downscale guys, actually.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And it'll be interesting if they feel galvanized this time. Tony Carbonetti.
Yeah. No, has anyone actually ever looked at how many just live in states where they say, you know what, I live in California and New York, so why vote? Has anyone broken those numbers? Look at the 7 swing states. Is participation higher?
The Pennsylvania thing.
So I just read, Mark, that Pennsylvania sent out 2.2 million absentee ballots and received, or mail-in ballots, and they said they received 1.8 million back.
That's impossible.
And it's almost 2-1 Democrats over Republican.
Well, when I saw the Pennsylvania numbers, the gap really has been closed from what it was. Last time there was close to 1 million gap, and now there's only a 300,000 gap, unless there's some new numbers.
This was as of Monday morning. It was 997,000 Democrats coming and 587,000 Republicans.
On the absentee. On the absentee.
Correct. And so that's a much closer range for Republicans than last time. Last time the gap was almost 1 million voters. And so now the gap has been cut in half. And so So the Republicans look at that and say that's progress. Not as much progress as they've made in some of the other states where it's dead even, but certainly progress on that vote. And I always point out it's much better to get your votes in early,
sure,
because you don't know if people who plan to vote for you can show up at the polls, their kid gets sick, the car breaks down, it seems a little chilly, the line's too long. So so those were looked at as, and I think Musk even tweeted them as better numbers than before. Now, remember, to go to your original question, turnout in the swing states generally pushes 70% or more, and turnout in the non-swing states is generally like 20 points lower. And so it is very hard to actually make a big difference in the swing states with the ground game, because virtually everybody who's ambulatory, or even today you don't have to be ambulatory, is voting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so what's your prediction, Mark? Really quick and super quick. What do you think? Do you think we will know tomorrow night?
No pollster's making a prediction. I still think it leans to Trump, precisely because on the big issues of the economy, he continues to lead, and Joe Biden's job rating is kind of 40%. So will they really buy that Harris is turning a page and is a new way forward, or a continuation of the past? And I think polls, that are this close, and if they're this close nationally, suggest that he just has a narrow edge in the swing states. I will be surprised if it's otherwise, but on the other hand, it certainly is possible.
Yeah, it certainly looks in that direction for sure, Mark. Thank you so much, Mark. We'll see. Thank you very much, Mark. We appreciate it. I know how busy you are. Thank you.
Calling all Patriots. Election day is here. We need you to do your part and make our victory too big to rig. Make your plan to vote right now. Go online to www.swampthevote.org. Thousands of Democrat votes are being cast right now. Don't let them win. Republicans are counting on you to join the red wave. Confirm your polling place at www.swampthevote.org. That's swampthevote.org. Together we will secure our border, stop the Democrats' crime epidemic, and make America great again. Confirm your polling place right now at www.swampthevote.org. Paid for by the Republican National Committee. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. The Republican National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising. GOP.com.